The Conservative press has greeted Tony Abbott's recent trip to China with great enthusiasm. The Australian in particular has waxed positively lyrical, or perhaps fulsome would be a better word. But one way or another, I think they had very low expectations. What went right for Tony Abbott was less important than what didn't go wrong. I mean, he didn't rush up to his hosts and say, "Oh, how are they hanging me old china plate?" And he didn't vomit all over them at the celebratory banquet in the manner of George W. Bush in Tokyo. But it wasn't exactly gaffe-free. For instance, Tony said that one sign of the great tolerance and affection Australians have for the Chinese is the upsurge of Chinese restaurants in the last century. Well, not quite, Tony. I mean, the Chinese didn't come here to open restaurants and sell chop suey. They came here looking for gold, and they were chased off the fields by bigoted and racist diggers. Hardly a sign of great affection. And then, of course, there's Tony Abbott's own affection for the Chinese. On a previous visit, he assures us he got to cuddle a panda. Unfortunately, the endangered beast was not himself present to report on the incident. But beyond those trivia, there's a more serious aspect to Abbott's visit, which was his announcement that Australia's interests were not always served by investment which came from foreign companies owned by foreign governments, a clear sign to the Chinese that they ought to butt out. Of course, it's a bit late now. The Chinese already have huge investments in Australian land, and more important, in mining and in energy. Indeed, Arrow Energy, which is owned by the Chinese, a Chinese company, and therefore by the government, is one of the biggest providers of energy in the country. And there are several more in the same boat. But of course, they're not all owned by the Chinese. Some are owned by the Singapore government, for instance, who own a very large slab of Optus apart from anything else, and AGL. So does Abbott include those in his strictures against government-owned foreign investment? And apparently not. Apparently it's just the Chinese he's got it in for, because he informed them they'd really all be much more prosperous and happy if they'd adopt Australian democracy. They were apparently not impressed, and I suspect they were even more impressed when Abbott, unsurprisingly, repeated his pledge that he would repeal the carbon tax. This is the largest and most populous nation in the world, struggling desperately to balance its own development against environmental concerns, which it takes very seriously indeed. So how does it sound when a small country, one of the richest in the world, but also the biggest per capita carbon emitter in the world, says, "Oh no, we're not going to do anything, we rely on you to do the heavy lifting"? Not good, Tony. Not good. Not good, I tell you, not good. So there, I'm Mungo MacCalum.